Welcome back to the Michael Lofton Show here on Reason and Theology on a Friday. Well, will Rome lose the faith and become the seat of the Antichrist? We hear this all the time. In fact, I see it constantly in the comment section. Now, I know I've spoken about it in a previous video, but, I decided to go ahead and treat this a little bit more at length and dedicate an entire stream specifically to it because it seems like there's some confusion here. Usually, whenever we point out something about the papacy, I'm hearing from Catholics who will say, well, the seat of the Antichrist is going to be in Rome, and so the papacy is going to be taken over by the Antichrist, and we're starting to see evidence of that now, and just read the prophecy of Our Lady of La Salette. And I'm noticing that some people need some guidance here and seem to be unaware of the facts about the apparition of Our Lady of La Salette, from which this claim comes. Again, this famous quote that we tend to hear being circulated online on social media, Rome will lose the faith and become the seat of the Antichrist, goes back allegedly to the apparition of Our Lady of La Salette in 1846. I say allegedly because we're actually going to find out some really incredible plot twists here with this. I'll go ahead and just kind of tell you up front what the situation is with this quote, and then we'll take a deeper dive into it. So I'll let you know, where we're headed with this. Ultimately speaking, there was an apparition of the Virgin Mary in 1846 known as Our Lady of La Salette that the local bishop approved. And originally, this, the apparition and what the Virgin Mary said was written down by the seers, 1851. And that is what was approved by the local bishop. However, one of the visionaries, who also was the same visionary who did have some false prophecies, as we will see, one of the visionaries wrote down an expanded version several decades later after originally writing the message in 1876. And it was in this expanded version that you find the quote, Rome will lose the faith and become the seat of the Antichrist. In the original version, it wasn't there. In the approved version, it's not there. It was added later to a version that was actually condemned by the Holy See, and it was put on the Index of Forbidden Books, which is still morally binding on us. In other words, not only is the quote, Rome will lose the faith and become the seat of the Antichrist, not authentic and not approved by the church, it's listed as among the damned books on the Index of Forbidden Books. So no Catholic should be presenting this as if it is Catholic or as if it is part of the original message, because it is not. I also want to point out the claim that the papacy or Rome, and specifically when somebody says Rome here, they're suggesting the papacy. The claim that the papacy is going to be taken over by the Antichrist, according to St. Robert Bellarmine, is a Protestant argument used against Catholics. So when Catholics now present this, not only are they using a fraudulent and forbidden, spurious quote that does not belong to anything approved by the church, it's in fact condemned, they're also using a Protestant argument against the Catholic Church, which St. Robert Bellarmine condemns and refutes in his work on the Roman Pontiff. So that is what we're going to take a look at now. All right, let's just start with a little bit of background. And, back in 2000, Jimmy Akin actually wrote a really good article about Our Lady of La Salette, right here with Catholic Answers. I'll put a link to it there in the show notes. You're welcome to go and read it. I'm not going to read the whole thing to you, but I will read a portion of it that I find to be relevant here. He says, first, a little background. The apparition of Our Lady of La Salette occurred in 1846. The Visionaries were two children in France named Maximin, and Melanie. The local bishop approved the apparition in 1851. Okay, so the 1851 version is what was approved. And that same year, the two children were persuaded to write down information on the Virgin Mary, write down the information the Virgin Mary had given to them, which again did not include the claim Rome will lose the faith and become the seat of the Antichrist. The question of what these secrets contained was on many people's minds, and the children were relentlessly pestered to reveal the information. It was not until 1851, when they were asked to write down the secrets so that they could be given to the Pope, that they complied. Afterwards, Maximin never revealed his secret. Now, pay attention to this. This is where things get odd. He is reported to have claimed that Mary told him that he would become a millionaire, that the Antichrist would slay him, and that the next pope would be French. None of these things happened, and scholars generally conclude that they were stories Maximin made up. Oh, does it sound good? Made up in an attempt to stop people from pestering him about the secret. That is known as bearing false witness, it would seem, if that's true, if they in fact do go back to him. That's not the most disturbing part here, however. When texts alleging to be Maximin's secret began to appear in the press, some of which are demonstrably false, the frustrated seer refused to either confirm or deny that they were his, saying it was the Pope's responsibility to decide whether the secret should be revealed. Also sounds shaky. But here's where it gets really bad. Melanie's story is different. Over the years, she apparently did begin revealing pieces of her secret to others, and in 1879, she published the whole thing. So again, you have a 1851 version approved by the local bishop. 1879, you have a much longer version, much expanded version, which is the one where she now introduces the quote, Rome will lose the faith and become the seat of the Antichrist. The booklet she produced in 1879 was much larger than this and undoubtedly contains ideas that were not part of the secret sent to the Pope. So while Melanie's 1879 publication may have been based on her original secret, it undoubtedly contains elements not in the original, and we cannot tell which elements are which. That raises a concern about the Rome will lose the faith line. It may not have been in the secret sent to the Pope. Right, it wasn't. There is another problem. Some of the prophecies contained in Melanie's secret are demonstrably false. There's a red flag for you. Here's an example. They're too specific. They're tied to the 19th century and they didn't happen. For example, so here's an example of the seer giving a prophecy that failed. Not a good sign. Here is the main passage about the Antichrist. In the year 1865, the abomination shall be seen in the holy places in convents, and then the demon shall make himself as the king of hearts. It will be about that time the Antichrist shall be born. Already we lost, right? Antichrist obviously wasn't born in 1865. At his birth, he shall vomit blasphemies. He shall have teeth and a word. He shall be like an incarnate demon. He shall utter frightful screams. He shall work prodigies. He shall feed on impure things. He shall have brothers who, though not incarnate demons like him, shall nevertheless be children of iniquity. At the age of 12 years, they shall have become remarkable for valiant victories, which they shall achieve very soon. Each of them will be at the head of the armies. Paris shall be burned, and Marseilles shall be submerged. Many great cities shall be shattered and swallowed up by earthquakes. The populace will believe that everything is lost, will see nothing but murder, and will hear only the clang of arms and sacrilegious blasphemies. Well, yeah, that didn't happen. So Jimmy notes, well, now that we're in the year 2000, either there's a 135-year-old guy, well, he would be what now, 158 now? 138-year-old guy out there somewhere with brothers who won great battles at the heads of armies in the 1800s in a war that everyone seems to have forgotten about, or else what Melanie published as her secret from Our Lady of La Salette contains elements that are false. And he notes radical traditionalists are being duplicitous when in attempt to frighten people, they quote the line about Rome and the Antichrist without supplying the context that reveals that Melanie's published version of the secret established for itself a time frame that has already passed and failed. Okay. Now, let's take a look at the Index of Forbidden Books. This is on arcaneknowledge.org. The apparition of the Virgin Mary witnessed by Maximin and Melanie, 1846, has been one of the more controversial ecclesiastically approved private revelations, because it was approved by the local bishop, in part because there is so much misinformation regarding the content of the message imparted to the children. Some of the information was propagated by Melanie herself in her later years, most infamously in an 1879 tract that was placed on the Index of Prohibited Books, yet still enjoys popularity among traditionalist publishers, misled by the imprimatur of the bishop. Those who have only casual knowledge of the story of La Salette may easily mistake this extravagantly embellished apocalyptic narrative as the true content of the revelation, leading some people to believe in a false apocalypse, while others understandably reject La Salette altogether as unworthy of belief. Now, if you go and scroll down, he's actually going to show you the Index of Forbidden Books. He even gives you a PDF copy of it, and I did go inside the PDF copy and verify it's authentic. So if you look down here, here we go. It is part of the damned books on the Index of Forbidden Books. That right here, damnator opusculum, which means damned works or damned books. The apparition of the three saints of the Virgin of La Salette. This was on the 9th of May, 1929. It was placed on the Index of Forbidden Books, which is still morally in effect, as Cardinal Ratzinger has noted. And again, right here, you can see it. And here is the copy, pages 287 to 288. Oh, well, I think I actually found it a while back in a, if you go to, what is that website? Because I did verify it about a year ago. If you go to the website, the Wayback Machine, it should actually have a PDF copy of this still. Or you could just go to the Acta Apostolica Sedis. Let's actually do that together. Let me just go the other way. Sedis. Let me find it. Here we go. All right, so we're looking at 1929, pages 287. Let's just do that real quick. We said 29, right? I'm sorry, 23. Here we go. And then we're looking at pages 287 to 288. You see if I can pull it up on the screen. I didn't get it prepared this time. I know I did it in a previous show. But let me try to do that again for those of y'all who want to just go ahead and see it. All right, so 87 to 88. Let's see here. Here's 87. There we go. Okay, there it is. Let me zoom in on that so y'all can see it a little bit better. So again, it's on the damned works section, or it's listed as damned works. Right here, 9th of May, 1923, the apparition of the three saints of the Virgin of La Salette. There you go. Again, this still carries a moral effect. Even if it doesn't carry canonical effect today, it still carries moral effect. And in fact, he notes that here. The judgment naturally supersedes the imprimatur of any local bishop, right? So that should go without saying, but for some of those who it doesn't, okay. The judgment naturally supersedes the imprimatur of any local bishop, and as Cardinal Ratzinger has stated, the index contains its moral force for Catholics, notwithstanding the fact that the list is no longer updated. Okay, so that's enough for the part of the condemnation and the Index of Forbidden Books. And now I want to take a look at Robert Bellarmine very briefly. And I do want to say this. If you consider just the message, Rome will lose the faith and become the seat of the Antichrist, even though we already see this is false. We already see it's condemned. We know it's a Protestant argument. I'll just say this. Rome will lose the faith could simply mean the city of Rome and the people of Rome. And the people of Rome, the secular government, can become the seat of the Antichrist while the Pope is still in charge of spiritual Rome, right? That's obviously possible. So even if something like Rome will lose the faith and become the seat of the Antichrist were true, it doesn't have to mean that Rome, as in the papacy, is going to be taken over by the Antichrist. So it doesn't even, that interpretation doesn't even follow from that quote. But as we're saying, it's not even authentic. And it's something that, again, comes from the enemies of the Catholic Church, from the Protestants. So here's book 3, chapter 13 from Bellarmine's On the Roman Pontiff. He says, we continue to the 6. Our adversaries impudently affirm that the particular seat of Antichrist is Rome, or even founded upon the apostolic throne at Rome. At Rome. So taking over the papacy. For they say the Antichrist is going to invade the See of Peter. Sound familiar? Vigano, among others, right? This is a Protestant argument that Bellarmine refutes. This is Protestantism infiltrating the church. And what's ironic is usually the people who are circulating it are always talking about infiltration. The church has been infiltrated. Yes, the church has been infiltrated by you. You're the infiltrator. You're infiltrating the Catholic Church with Protestant arguments. You're the infiltrator. For they say Antichrist is going to invade the See of Peter and will carry off the summit to the highest place and thence tyrannically preside over and dominate the whole church. They then try to show that Rome is the royal city of Antichrist from Apocalypse 17, so the book of Revelation, where John, speaking on the seat of Antichrist, says it will be a great city which will sit upon 7 hills, which has rule over the kings of the earth, which that could also be Jerusalem, by the way. The description there found in the book of Revelation either could fit pagan Rome or it could also fit Jerusalem, just FYI. Moreover, they try to show that Antichrist will have his seat at Rome, not in the place of Nero, but in the very church of Christ. Again, this is what I'm hearing Catholics saying. And here Bellarmine is saying, oh no, this is actually what the Protestants were saying. And this is what Protestants argue. Moreover, they try to show that Antichrist will have his seat at Rome, not in the place of Nero, but in the very church of Christ, from which Paul says in 2 Thessalonians 2 that Antichrist is going to sit in the temple of God. For when he says absolutely in the temple of God, they understand the true temple of the true God. There is no such thing unless it is the church of Christ, since the temples of the Gentiles are true temples, but of demons, not of God. And he goes on to refute it. I'm not going to sit here and read the whole thing. I recommend that you certainly do that. But I will certainly say this. It is very clear. This is a Protestant argument that Catholics are now using based on something that isn't even from an apparition that has been approved. The part that is approved did not contain this information. And this later edition found its way on the Index of Forbidden Books and contains false prophecies. It's time to stop using this. If you're saying Rome will lose the faith and become the seat of the Antichrist, pay attention to the prophecies. Everything that we're going through right now in the Catholic Church has been prophesied. Stop it. Stop it. You're infiltrating the Catholic Church. And you're doing a disservice to Catholics, and you're doing a favor to Protestants from whence this originated. Anyways, I hope this was helpful. If it was, hit the like button and the subscribe button. Also, check me out, patreon.com/Reason and Theology. We'll see you later. God bless.